count there. Right, here you go, folks. Thursday is another time slot, but today it's Wednesday morning. It's Tuesday night in the States, and it's because of this Tuesday night in the States that we now have Elise, and it's a good morning to Elise and a good evening to you in America.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody in Australia, and good evening, everybody here in the US. I am very excited to have Tyler Kiwala Aaron Kuhn from Journey to Truth podcast. Amazing people. People that I trust with my heart, and that's what I bring them to you, because they just have been doing an amazing job of actually bringing the truth to light. And with that said, I want to say that, of course, everything today that we say is for entertainment purposes only. And thank you so much, you guys, for coming, Tyler and Aaron. Tyler, I'll start with you. I wanted to start real quick. How did you guys start this podcast?
We started it, by chance. I don't know. We met, I think, nothing's by chance, right? Everything's not divine. Everything's divine. Yeah, divine orchestration. We met in 2018 at a disclosure conference in Loveland, Colorado, here in the States. And we were both there, just like pursuing the truth on the awakening journey. And it was shortly after that Aaron actually came into St. Louis, where I was living at the time, where he's originally from. And, we were just chatting. We knew he wanted to do something. He said, "You want to start a podcast?" Sure, why not? No expectations at all whatsoever. There's St. Louis right there in the Midwest. We've hosted a few conferences there, and we've both moved away from the area now. But we started it in 2019. It was just basically a place, an avenue for us to have conversations with like-minded people. And it kind of just took off from there. And we started reaching out to people, asking them to come on and be guests. We had no idea what we were doing at all, no expectations. And it just turned into something that we never expected. We've done 4 conferences. We're on our 5th conference now. We've each written a book. We've done webinars. We've done 2 documentaries, one which is getting ready to hit the streaming platforms. We're very proud of it, regarding the Secret Space program. And it's just turned into so much more than a podcast now. I felt like it was meant to be. I never planned on being a podcaster or an internet influencer or whatever. I never planned on any of that. It just kind of happened. So we learned the hard way every step of the way, trial by fire. And, there was no plan. We were just following our hearts, pursuing our passion. And I think because we were doing that, the universe kind of took the wheel, and it led us down this amazing path that has been very rewarding, very difficult. It's a tough road, especially with all the censorship and, just the attacks. What we're doing is we're forcing people to think outside of the box with the information that we share. And unfortunately, that challenges belief systems. And, we get pushback from that. But that's all part of this. We're not trying to make anyone mad. We're just trying to help people think and see outside of what they were born into, right? The belief system and the program that we're all born into. And that's kind of where we are today with it. And we're going strong. We don't plan on stopping. It's become a full-time thing that we both do. And we're very proud of it. And I'll let Aaron, Elise, whatever, Aaron, if you want to piggyback off of that. Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron, yes, tell us what you want to tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of, he said it. We met at a conference in Colorado. It was very synchronistic and divinely orchestrated how we even met there. And you don't meet everyone at a conference, right? You might meet 10% at most, if that, even of the people there. And I mean, there were 450 people at that conference. Mm-hmm. And we just happened to be, standing in a circle like you do, talking to people, and then everyone disperses. And I just happened to be standing right next to Tyler and his dad. He was there with his dad, actually. And they were about to go on their own little hike. And just because I was standing next to them, they're like, "Hey, you want to join us on our hike?" Yeah, sure. So on the hike, where are you from? St. Louis. Oh, we are too. No way. Total synchronicity. And I don't think that was an accident. I think that was orchestrated to happen. because then, like Tyler said, a few months later, we met up, and I had just like a friend put the idea of a podcast in my mind. Even though I was already wanting to do like a YouTube channel or something, I just, I hadn't done anything yet. And I was wanting to, I didn't know what, but I was like, yeah, like an audio I was just thinking audio podcast. Cause at that time, when you said podcast, most people meant audio only, right? Well, now it's like everyone's doing video and calling it a podcast. And that's how we started it. We're like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do it. And we started audio only, and then it quickly transformed into video with audio. And then it kind of just snowballed. Like Tyler said, it just very organically, like we weren't even trying to we were just having fun, and we were just following our bliss and following our passion and having fun. We didn't even think like, oh, we're gonna make a career out of this or it's gonna be huge or anything like that. We were just literally having fun, and we wanted a platform just to talk about everything we wanted to talk about and to have on the people that we were excited about in the community or that we had met. And that's what we did. And we just stuck to, we stayed very consistent with doing it once a week. And I think that's a big reason why it was successful. It snowballed because we were very consistent with that, and we just kept going, and it just kept building. And now we're doing conferences and documentaries and writing books and all the rest of it. So it's really been an incredible journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that probably in the beginning, did you think about like, do we need to have not a mission, but kind of like sort of an idea of what we want to talk about? Or really was it just about having the people that you liked on the show? Because I know it's kind of turned more into a secret soldier type thing, a little bit more that way. But was that in the beginning, was that the conversation? Because I don't think it was. No. I wasn't there in the beginning, so I'm not sure.
No, I mean, that's all. Like that's always just been one topic of many that we cover. I think it's just one. It's a big one. It's one that we're both very into, but we've never been a secret space program or super soldier show or anything like that. That's just one of a multitude of things that we talk about. And especially at the beginning, I don't think we even had our first SSP experience around until about a year into the podcast. So, and for us to really get going on that topic.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, what happened was it was always an interest of ours, but we were just talking about the Great Awakening in general, spirituality, alternative health, you name it. I really, UFOs, Bigfoot. I really, really wanted to cover the secret space program, but we weren't there yet. We were still building an audience. We weren't there yet. And at some point we decided to do a secret space program month where all month we just interviewed the whistleblowers at the time. And I feel like that kind of put us on the map. And that's why a lot of people like correlate us with that. And then our first conference was a secret space conference. It was all the whistleblowers combined in one room. And it kind of set us on this trajectory where, it just became something. I started having my own experiences, and we just really started reading these books and going down these rabbit holes, interviewing these people, and understood that this story wasn't being told properly. So that's why there's a heavy emphasis on that. And that's why we even decided to do the film that we did, because no one's out there covering it properly. There's a lot of people covering it. We think it gets misunderstood and made fun of a lot, but we decided to do this project as a voice of reason, a level-headed approach to this information without scaring people off and not jumping off the deep end right away, because a lot of it's hard to believe, especially if you don't have any foundation or background in understanding it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. And Aaron, do you have anything else to say about that?
Yeah. And that subject, to me is just like the deeper level of the ufology, at least on like the more earth-based, I guess you could say, UFO subjects. It's just the deeper levels of what's going on is the way I look at it, but it's been kind of branded as the secret space program, but that's also kind of a misnomer, because it sounds like it's just one program when you say it that way, but there's many, many, many different secret programs or secret space programs. But that's just kind of an umbrella term that everyone now knows. So it's easy to just, use that and everyone knows what you're talking about, but it's a little bit of a misnomer. But to me, it's just the deeper level of what's going on. outside, more earth-based though, and a little bit more military-based generally. But because there's so much going on beyond that, that even that's like a very surface level if you want to take the grand scheme of what's really going on in reality and in the multiverse, right? And with the whole galactic information and everything, there's just so much there. So this is just one little aspect, but since it's so earth-based and it's so like hits close to home in that way, I think it's an extremely important topic that needs to be out there, needs to be understood by people and taken seriously. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of damage done to the credibility in a lot of people's minds to this topic over the last few years. And that was another motivation that we had to keep talking about it, and to also do the documentary that we did, was to kind of bring that credibility back and really make a case for it, and make people aware that this is a very real, very serious thing that's been happening for a long, long time. And everyone needs to know that this is happening,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And before we go on to the rest of this, I just want to real quick, because this is called Dreaming the New Dream, right? So it's about how normal people become these spiritual gurus and these spiritual way showers. So I think it's important for people to know, like, what did you guys do before you went into your passion, which then created another revenue in your life that you were able to leave the matrix. So if you guys can really quickly tell me, for our audience, what did you do before you were able to leave your job to do your passion? So what were you guys doing?
I'll just keep this because these are both very long stories, right? If we tell the whole thing, but just in a nutshell,
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. In a nutshell, I graduated high school and I skipped college and went straight into the union, construction carpenters union. And I became a carpenter, and I stayed a carpenter for 15 years. The last 5 years or so of carpentry, I started going through my awakening. We started the podcast within that time frame, and I started realizing I no longer belong in this like 40-hour job, work week, matrix reality anymore. I'm meant for much bigger things, and I didn't have a plan. It was very scary. I quit and started doing this full time. We weren't making any money. It was just a pure leap of faith, knowing that I was following my heart. So there's really no secret recipe to like what we did, but I was a construction worker, carpenter, foreman, and I quit a very good paying job to pursue this, and it ended up being the best decision I ever made.
Awesome. Aaron, how about you?
Well, what my passion always was music, and I'm a guitarist. Guitar is my main instrument. I can also play drums, and I played in various rock bands for over a 15-year period. And I always did that while I worked my day job or my job to pay the bills, and it was just a whole bunch of different retail jobs. I did data entry at one place for a little over a year. But every other job was like some retail job usually. And then I did my band, and did music. And for a long time, that's what I wanted to make a career out of, playing music, but it's just so hard to do. And if you play in a band like I did, unless you're in like a cover band or something, it's really hard to make money. And even if you do, you got to just tour so much. You're just on the road, way more than I would have been comfortable with. So at some point I kind of realized it's not really a viable option, for a career, for me at least. But then I still was at this point where, now I'm working this job and I'm making an okay money, but it's still not it's just like a retail job, and then I met Tyler really close to that time. And then we started the podcast. And again, though, we weren't even, I still wasn't thinking of this is going to be my new career. This is going to be my job, but it just kept building and building. And now it is. And it turned into that. And I think the universe kind of is just I kept following my inner guidance system, right? And following what the universe was here you go. Here's the next step. Okay, here's the next step. Okay, keep going. Keep following your what brings you joy and makes you come alive kind of thing. And now it's turned into that. So that's kind of how that happened. And by the way, Tyler, you quit your job way before I quit my normal Matrix job, and at a time where we weren't making like any money. So it was a way bigger leap of faith.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes you have to be the example, really. And, you know, again, it's about following what you're being told, because sometimes the universe, if you don't follow, it's going to make you follow. And when it makes you follow, it's not fun. I call it the tower moment. And you don't want a tower moment in your life. So it's a good thing that both of you listen to your heart, and you know, and I'm so grateful because here you are, right? You wouldn't be here in this magical place with, you know, what I love about what you guys do is you get to meet so many people. And I think that's just so amazing. And, and you're also activating people as well. You know, you are activating so many people. And so, you know, through this huge thing you guys did, I know at least Tyler in his life got activated to remember some things that started to come in, you know, as the universe puts little crumbles in the way. And so Tyler, tell everybody what started happening with you in your life as these guests were coming in and all of a sudden these things started happening for you. How did it all unravel to get to a point where you now ended up writing a book?
Well, it's a crazy story. I'm going to warn your listeners. It's hard to believe, but before I ever even got into this podcast, before I met Aaron, before I had my actual official awakening, things had been happening for years, but I hadn't snapped out of it yet. You know, at some point we all hit that point in our life where it's like, oh, like this isn't the world I thought it was, right? I hadn't had that moment yet. I was still like 1 foot in. And this guy that I worked with in construction, this is a long story short, but I'll start with it just because this is how really it got me into this. He was escorted off the job one day by these black government vehicles, and he went missing for like a month. I randomly run into him in this place, in this park near my house, an old military base. And in a nutshell, he tells me that he has been recruited to join this secret Mars program, like a secret space program. But it wasn't just like fluff. He had an incredible amount of information and knowledge about everything that was going on in the world, stuff I wouldn't learn about officially until years later. He was just bombarding me with all this information, like information overload about, you know, weather, warfare, multiple timelines, human cloning, underground bases, you know, frequency weapons, the UFOs, the secret Mars program, the time travel programs, all of this stuff. And he was telling me about all this stuff. And he said that he was being recruited to join this Mars program. And that he was specifically asked by whoever his handler was at the time to basically recruit me as well, ask me, convince me if I wanted to go. And he spent 3 months of his life, the better part of 3 months of his life, actively trying to convince me to join this program. And the day he told me he was going to leave was the last day I saw him. And then he went missing for 7 years after that. And I didn't go through my awakening until after the fact. And then I have my awakening. I learn about the secret space program, still forgetting about Larry, not really thinking about it. Then I hear Laura Eisenhower's testimony that she was recruited for this Mars program. And then I kind of froze. I'm like, wait, that's like that happens to other people? It's a real thing? And I had to rewind and reflect on that whole period of my life and ask myself serious questions and like replay it all. And I'm like, was that real? That wasn't just crazy. And, you know, I skipped all the details, but it really put me on this path. Like, okay, why would that have happened to me? Why me? And that was the beginning of other stuff. I started having like UFO abductions and sleep paralysis and all this crazy stuff. And in inner earth encounters, like this wild stuff you would never ask for, you never thought would happen. And it was all happening. And I didn't understand why. A second recruitment attempt years later in 2021, 22, and to a different program, it's just a wild story. And I feel like on a higher level, I was all that stuff. I either set it up for myself or I was on this path so I can understand the reality and the depth of all of these subjects that we cover on our show, I now had a really deep understanding of all this stuff, and I didn't have to interview people as a skeptic anymore. Like I was like, oh, like that happened to me. Like I know this person's not lying, right? I wasn't super vocal about all of my stuff until years later, but I mean, it's a long story, and we'll be here all for days.
You know, it's funny because I thought that the people coming to the podcast were how you opened you started remembering things, but it sounds like the opposite. It sounds like what had happened in your life was really what brought the interest into, you know, start the podcast. When Aaron says, let's do a podcast, and you're like, hell yeah, like I have so much, you know, I know all this stuff. So that's interesting.
Yeah, opposite.
Yeah, the opposite. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And how about you, Aaron? Has there been anything like that with you and the podcast? Like, has there been any awakenings or anything that led you to write your book?
Well, I've been wanting to write my book since before the podcast was even a thing. But I would definitely say, you know, I've learned a lot and grown from doing the podcast quite a bit, but I had my awakening way back in 2012. And I had spent 5 years from then till 2017 not having anyone to talk to about this stuff at all. I grew up very Christian, and I kind of broke out of that box that year. But the rest of my family still was that and still is that. And then I had my Christian friends, and I had my atheist and agnostic bandmates and other friends, and no one was like anywhere close to the realm where like I could talk to about this stuff. And when I did, I tried to at first even, and it would get poo-pooed, and like especially by the main guy at that time. I was literally just getting out of one band and just starting another one with a good friend of mine at the time. And he was going from the Christian to the hardcore atheist transition at that exact time, where I was going spiritual and this stuff. So we started in the same and then diverged like very differently. And I was all excited, you know, as I was trying to talk to him about all this, and he was just like, oh, that stuff's not real. That's crazy. That's BS, you know. And I realized quickly I couldn't talk. I'm like, okay, he's just going to shut down everything. I can't talk to him. And then once we formed the full band, the other two guys ended up being pretty much on that same page as well. And I didn't have, and then any other friends were, if there were anything, were Christian. And again, there's only so much I could talk without it going against their beliefs and being like, oh, I'm ETs and UFO, what? Oh, New Age stuff, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like I'm like, okay. So I quickly realized like, okay, I can't really talk to anybody about this stuff. So I just kind of was on my own isolated journey, which in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I could have like done what Tyler did and found, you know, the monthly MUFON group or the Coasties group, which he was going to before I even met him, or some group. You know, I could have sought out other people in the St. Louis area or some kind of thing. But I was working full time, playing in a band, and I didn't have that much free time. And it just never occurred to me for whatever reason to do that during that period until 2017, when I hit a point where I'm like, I have to meet other people. I have to connect with other people. And the only way at that time I knew how to do that was to go to a conference, right? So I knew about like Contact in the Desert for a little bit before that, and I really wanted to go, but I couldn't quite afford it. But there was another one where I was able to go that year, which was called Eclipse of Disclosure, and it was in Mount Shasta. And that was one that it was in the height of like Corey Good's kind of popularity. And it was kind of some of the team he was working with at the time that put that on. Yeah. And Mount Shasta is a magical place in general. If anyone knows anything, I know you know, Elisa, you've been there. Yeah. So that conference, being at that location and being that conference, it just changed my life completely. It was such an activating moment in my life, and all I wanted to do from that point on was to keep going to conferences or keep connecting with other people. And that's why I ended up meeting Tyler eventually, because I ended up I'm like, all right, what's the next conference? And then I went to Contact in the Desert 2018. And I'm like, all right, what's the next one? And the next one was literally like the sequel to that conference, which they moved it to Loveland, Colorado the next year. And they changed it from Eclipse of Disclosure to Dimensions of Disclosure. And that was Tyler's first conference. And that's how I ended up meeting Tyler. So again, it's like every time I've followed my passion, I've followed my inner guidance system, it's led me to like the next big step in my life where it's taken me to the next level every single time.
So what has the podcast brought for you once you started the podcast? Like, how did that bring you to creating the book?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'd been wanting to write it for a while, but it's for
was
me,
it
it's
something that had to do with the podcast, or it really didn't even have to do with the podcast? It was just you deciding to write it.
It was just me deciding to write it.
Okay.
I mean, it has to do with like everything that we cover on the show, if you want to say it that way. And I talk about the first 3 chapters are kind of its own thing. It's kind of like philosophical. And then it gets into my story of awakening and then meeting Tyler and starting the podcast. And then I go from there into meeting my now wife, Amanda. And then she writes kind of her own guest chapter from her perspective of when we met, because it was so, again, divinely orchestrated and magical and crazy. So I do go into all that. So I definitely wanted to include that in my first book. And then outside of that, though, it's just kind of like it goes into so many different topics, but they all connect. And I really wanted to make a point to show how, like, look, all this stuff connects, and it really gives you an idea of the bigger picture of what's going on, where I'm talking about ETs and UFOs. I'm talking about spiritual concepts and metaphysical concepts. I'm talking about the so-called conspiracy, information, the ancient civilizations, what's the nature of reality at the deepest level, and it shows kind of how it all connects together. It's kind of all over the place, but I think I did as good a job as I could with that. But yeah, it's just kind of like, it's all stuff we cover on the show. And I think doing the show for, I don't know how many years at that point, definitely helped me in writing it. It's way better than it would have been, I think, if I would have done it years before that, especially before the podcast. So it immensely helped with it. Yeah.
Awesome. So Tyler, you want to tell us about your book a little bit more in detail so people have an idea of what it's about?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of told you what happened with the Mars recruitment and Larry. That's one of the big chapters in the book.
Uh-huh.
It's an awakening story, awakening through adversity or baptism by fire, whatever you want to call it. Like, it started off kind of really dark for me, and there's a whole part of the story where my mother passed away, and then I started having these things happen to me, and it just tells that story, that journey. But then it evolves into this book that I call it Tales from Another Timeline, where I start getting into these recruitment attempts into these secret programs, and then my own experiences, researching this stuff and corroborating the information. Then I started having memories from what I would consider our other lifetimes or other timelines. And they didn't really fit into this reality, but they were so real and profound. I was writing them down. And at some point I realized I need to turn this into a book. I need to tell the story. And I think what was happening to me was helping me understand the multi-dimensional reality, the nature of reality, like the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, like the infinite worlds, like the infinite versions of us all existing simultaneously in these parallel worlds. And I think that I was kind of somehow tapping into memories from these other versions of myself. And I started to document them and then turned into this book, right? And that's kind of what the middle part of it is, but also along the entire way, it's not just me telling a story. It's like what I learned from it, but it's also providing corroborating research and kind of like the history of like time travel and certain other topics to really like build this foundation to support what I'm saying, and not just like, I'm not just saying this, like here's things that support that and corroborate it. And it really just turned into this whole thing. I knew it was going to be a 3-part book, and it's a lot. I actually kept I left a lot out of the book because it would have been just too long. And, there'll be a part 2 eventually, but that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who don't follow me on my channel, Quantum Healing of the Soul, I had so many questions after reading Tyler's book that I reached out to him and I said, can we have some shows with the tarot cards to ask some questions about things that happen? Because I want to understand it better. I want to understand better about this bleed through and, how is he seeing places that he's dreaming about and he's been to, and just the last, they've all been mind blowing to me, Tyler, but the last one was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Just incredible. I think I got a little bit more understanding of how the timelines bleed through into each other and things like that. So, if you guys are interested, that's also on my channel as well. And really super interesting information with all that bleed through stuff. Okay, so there's so much more. So continuing on to the amazing work that you guys have done, you did, was your first documentary the Cahokia Mounds documentary?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cahokia Mounds. Yeah.
Cahokia Mounds. Okay, so tell us about this documentary. It was really so well made. I want people to see it. So what would you tell people about it? What's in it? Information that was contained in it.
Well, that we lived near Cahokia Mounds in St. Louis. It's like, it was 45 minutes from my house. And it's this ancient pyramid site in the middle of the country that really no one knows about. It's in Columbia, Illinois, essentially.
It's in Cahokia, which is like
near Columbia, Illinois, but it's technically in Illinois, not St. Louis, but it was still
on the Illinois side. Yeah, it's just south of like Collinsville. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
So that's the big Monk's Mound step pyramid. Anyway, it started to really fascinate me once I started going through my awakening. I had never given it a second thought. And I don't know, it was kind of a weird off the hook idea. I don't really know why or how we decided to do. I kind of remember now. I remember learning about it and understanding it was really significant. And then when I tried to research it, there was nothing. Like, there was just basically all the mainstream narratives, and there was really no alternative perspective. And I felt like there was a story that needs to be told here, and no one's telling it, or no one's at least even asking the questions. So that's what we did. It took us years, and we were filming. Then we threw it in the back seat whenever COVID hit, because it just seemed very uninteresting at the time, because the whole world was just changing before our eyes. And eventually everything settled down enough for us to really pursue it and finish it. And, in fact, Aaron brought a camera. We would go to this site after our conferences, and I think it was the 2023 conference.
Aaron, we started in 2020,
right? But the one where you interviewed Brad, that was
2023.
Yeah. So it was that conference. Aaron brought his camera. I kind of hadn't even I kind of was like, are we going to finish this or not? And then I thought, well, maybe we'll just turn it into like a quick 30-minute video or something. And Aaron decided to start just filming people after that conference. And the next thing you know, we had this amazing footage, and I started putting it together. And thanks to Aaron even doing that. And I was like, oh, this is a whole thing. Yeah, this needs to be a full movie. Yeah. And it just turned into this amazing thing where I really felt like I was guided by,
for sure,
by spirit. Sure. And in particular, there's the beginning of the film.
And Jace got amazing drone footage.
Yeah, we actually have, in my opinion, some of the best drone footage to date of the site. It cost so much at the time to buy drone footage of that site that it was way cheaper for us to literally fly our friend out and pay him to do
it was cheaper for us to fly Jace out from Arizona and back than it was for us to buy one really short clip of
right
of Monk's Mound.
Right. And And it was we're very proud of this. I mean, it was amazing. I think it really still is a great film, especially a first time thing. It just came together. Clifford Mahudi, who's a Zuni elder, one of the Native American elders in the film, he transitioned before this film was, before we made this film. And it hit me in the middle of the night one night. Like, I swear he came to me and I'm like, I had this film, we were putting it together. I'm like, it's missing something. And I had been getting all these synchronicities, these hawks and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh. I like literally heard in my head, like, add Clifford, include Clifford. And we had a podcast with him. And as soon as I did that, like, it started shaping up. And I felt like he was like this guiding hand throughout the whole time. And the whole film's dedicated to him. And it ends with this big, long monologue of him just kind of sharing some ancient wisdom, Native American star knowledge. And yeah, so that's that film. And Aaron and I traveled to a couple places. Harry Hubbard, a guy who had some artifacts. It was a whole thing. And it was just kind of amazing that it even came together, but it did.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I definitely think you have a connection, obviously. What do you want to tell people so they have an idea of what your conclusion was on these mounds? What do you think they were?
Well, Aaron, you can take this if you want. I mean, I know what I think.
Okay. Yeah. I think they're a type of pyramid, so to speak. And they do seem to be actually, so how like pyramids around the planet are in like Orion's belt formation or different constellations or star formations. Yep. Well, the mounds here and many other mounds are the same exact thing. In fact, if you look from above, it matches Orion, the constellation, the entire constellation of Orion perfectly. All the mounds in Cahokia, it matches identically to Orion. So clearly I think they're way older than the mainstream tells you. I think they were built differently than the mainstream tells you. They clearly had very advanced knowledge and
there were giants involved. Absolutely.
There were probably giants involved and some advanced technology involved. I think they're basically a type of pyramid and they're on ley lines. And whether, I've seen different, I've heard people's different theories about what the mounds were, whether like, oh, that was just the base. And then there was like a further up pyramid in the past that, made an actual pyramid fully, or something else was just built on top of it. But it's still kind of functioning as a pyramid. I'm not sure, but it's something along those lines. And, there was a Birdman tablet found there a long time ago, which they have on display there at the site. And it's a bird being. And that, the mainstream narrative, they tell you, oh, they dressed up as these bird beings. And it's like mythology and they, it's there to honor the gods. And it's like, well, yeah, because there probably were actual bird-like ETs, bird beings that were either there or that were involved, that were connected to at least that civilization going back many thousands of years. Right. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of other evidence that there's been some anomalous things found there. And just how it was built, like Monk's Mound is the big one that you just showed on the screen earlier, but there's many, many, many other smaller ones, but that's the big one. That's the impressive one, which the base of Monk's Mound is bigger than the base of the Great Pyramid. So that gives you an idea of how big Monk's Mound is. And the base of Monk's Mound is 3 feet thick of compacted granite, which the nearest of that is like
500 miles.
75 to 100 miles away or something like that.
I thought it was like 500 miles away, but
not that far, but it's far. It's far enough that it's like, okay, and that's a lot of granite. It's all compacted, so super thick. And as John Ford, who you just showed on the screen there, pointed out, that much granite weighs just about as much, if not more, than the dirt on top of it. And there's a lot of dirt. And they want to tell you that, like, oh, they just, millions and millions of buckets of dirt. And, it's like, the mainstream narrative basically doesn't even add up with how that was created, in my opinion. And, or why it was created, why they would put so much effort and work into just creating a mound that big, so basically, the point of the documentary is to cover the deeper aspect of what's going on with these mounds really, and who who was this civilization, and were they actually very advanced, and were there ETs involved and things like that.
And I just want to add this because I think it's important. Once we put the film out, before our YouTube channel got taken down, it was really gaining some traction because it was just in the algorithm of Cahokia Mound outside of our channel. And we were getting a lot of like mainstream normie people watching it. And the comments I wasn't expecting was that we were disrespecting the Native American culture by saying it was built by somebody else, like an older civilization. And a lot of people were really offended that we were taking that credit away from the Native Americans. But if you look at the evidence, the Native Americans, they moved in. Like these were built much older, far longer ago. And so that was interesting to me. And so you don't even realize the type of pushback you're going to get from doing a project like that. So like you think like we're doing like the world a favor, right? Doing this documentary. Right. And then instead you get this pushback from people that say we're undermining their culture by saying they didn't build it, when in fact they couldn't have built it if you really want to do some real research, you know. But anyway, it's out there. If anyone's interested to watch it, you can go to our website, journeytotruth.online, and click the link, or you can just go to our YouTube channel, Journey to Truth Podcast, or Rumble, and scroll through our library and find it there. There's no charge for it. It's just a free documentary on those platforms. So, or our Patreon if you want to watch it on our Patreon.
And there have been other people. I know Graham Hancock's been there and talked about it a little bit. I know David Hatcher Childress has been there and talked about it. I think William Henry. There's a lot of other names, like big name people that have been there or at least talked about it and covered it. It's been on Ancient Aliens, a really short, amount. It's been on Ancient Aliens, but still, it's not out there enough. It's not like on the level of like Machu Picchu or the Great Pyramid, the pyramids or all these other things that get way more attention. And a lot of people have never even heard of it. Like we barely knew anything about it when we started the documentary, and we live in St. Louis. So, but Brad Olson, I think he had been there before as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, he grew up in Chicago too, and so he was closer. But yeah, it just deserved way more attention and way more than it had ever gotten. So that was another motivation for the documentary.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys realize this, but you guys are putting this out there with the effort that it took to create this for free. You guys are putting this out there for free. Like, this is the type of people that you are. Like, it speaks volumes to what you do and how amazing you are. I mean, that, Tyler, you and your dad went and cleaned the park that was out there for the people that were in, part of the Cahokia Mounds or whatever. And the park was completely abandoned. You and your dad went and cleaned it up. I mean, just, you guys are real heroes in my mind, because your true heart is in getting the truth out there, and so thank you so much for that work and just, wow, it's just amazing. So thank you so much. It's so appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's our pleasure. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that the universe is going to pay you in, I mean,
right,
1,000-fold. So, it's
if you want to get into something cool too. Oh, if you want to pull that map back up, is that possible? That map you just had?
Which one? Oh, the map.
The one you just had, that one. Then zoom out slightly. Zoom out a little bit, a little more. See that horseshoe shaped lake right there in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, so they call that Horseshoe Lake, and they say this is just trying to show you how they make these stories up. They say that's a man-made borrow pit, and all the dirt from Horseshoe Lake is what they used to make the mounds. But that's a bullshit story. Literally, what happened was, it doesn't take much research at all. Horseshoe Lake was once part of the Mississippi River, the main river that you see there. And after a big earthquake in the 1800s, or whenever that big earthquake was, the river started running backwards, and it just kind of reshaped the landscape. That part of the Mississippi River was cut off from the rest of it. So if you zoom back in on that horseshoe, that was actually part of the Mississippi River at one point. And it's a natural part of the natural riverbed, and the Cahokia Mound site is right on the side of that. So it makes sense that they would settle there.
Yeah.
And not, but what they try to tell you in the museum is that that's a man-made lake, and that's what they call a borrow pit, where they got all the dirt to build these mounds, and it's literally a bullshit story.
It's not.
It's just, but that's the type of stuff that you learn at these historical sites, that they're making stuff up to hide the true history of everything, and rely on the fact that the average person isn't going to go research that Horseshoe Lake once was a branch of the Mississippi River, So it's just stuff like that where the evidence is there. We're not just crazy conspiracy theorists, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's actually some pyramids they just found in Kentucky. Have you heard about this? Have you seen the videos?
I have actually, like a step pyramid.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah. I haven't looked into it much yet, though.
Yeah. In Kentucky, they just found. They just found them, right? Found them. But I think they look like the ones in Guatemala, in Tikal. Ooh. I've been there. So they look kind of like those. So those are the Mayas. So it's possible that the Mayas were all the way up here. So something that's definitely something to watch out for. And something else that I would love for you guys to also check out if you ever do. I've been to the mountains in Bosnia, the Bosnian pyramids. Nice. And those pyramids connect straight to the Pleiades. There's 7 pyramids. Yep. And also there's been a lot of cover up. I actually, when I went there, I went there before I went to Egypt. And when I saw the pyramid in Egypt, I thought it was a joke because it was so small compared to the one in Bosnia. And it is just mind blowing because they have tunnels in the Bosnia one. And if you go into the tunnels, people are getting healed just from sitting in that energy. So it's just mind blowing. The Bosnian pyramids are mind blowing. Also. Right.
Yeah. We both really want to go to the Bosnian. We haven't been yet, but we have a bunch of friends that have been there, and those are incredible. And it's funny because they're not officially recognized as pyramids, but when you study them or go there, it's obvious, right? It's obvious. And they're huge.
Huge. Massive.
Bigger than the Great Pyramid, I believe, right? The main one?
It's like 10 times as big, bigger.
Way bigger.
It's a whole city. Like if you go to the Giza pyramid, it's a tiny little, building size pyramid. Like you go over there, it's a whole town underneath the pyramid. It's you can't even compare it. It's crazy. So I digress. So because we have more to cover. So there is a second documentary that you guys have put out. I have not had time to watch it, even though I'm part of your Patreon. So tell us about your second documentary, what's in it, and of course, how people can get there and all that good stuff.
So the second one is a very ambitious project to cover the secret space program in a way it's never been covered. It took us 3 years of filming, traveling, going to some military sites, boots on the ground investigations, and really building a case for the secret space program. And it's what we're realizing with mainstream ufology is that they're really trying to erase the history of ufology with these new documentaries and this just drip disclosure. They're literally ignoring and acting like all of these decades of history never happened. These UFO crash retrievals. I mean, there's just so many things, including developing out a parallel space program. Parallel to NASA. So behind the scenes, this secret space program was being developed out while the whole world was left thinking that rockets were the only way to get to space, right? And there's a whole story to be told there. So, there's been guys all the way back from the 60s, 50s and 60s, and we put this evidence in the documentary about them. Absolutely, our military are the deepest levels of our military and government knowing about the bases on the moon, and in fact going there. And there's a whole history going back to the late and early 1940s, late 30s in Germany, where they started developing out the secret space program, and they were on the moon before us. And it sounds crazy, but it's really not once you get into the information. And what the more you start looking into it, there's all these old timers talking about these bases on the moon, and then you have people talking about us developing the U.S. Navy developing bases up there. So there's really something happening with that already. And then you have this whole these new whistleblowers coming out claiming that they've been brought into these programs and stuff. So it's really trying to rebuild the history of ufology in this secret space program and let people know, like, this isn't something new that people just started talking about in the 2000s. Like, this is old stuff that you don't see these interviews anymore because they don't want you to see them. So it's a compilation. What, Aaron?
I mean, cut you off. It's especially not only coming from one individual, which there's this narrative or this mindset out there that, and understandably, because this individual kind of popularized the subject in a large way and was many people's introduction to it. It was my introduction to the topic. But then I did more research from that point and realized, there were SSP experiencers blowing the whistle on this years before this guy, and other insiders that have blown the whistle on aspects of this decades before, and other information that points to it. So I quickly realized, like, oh, this is way more than this one individual. But many people thought it all came from this one guy, and then because of his behavior and certain things about him, they thought that discredited the whole topic, because they thought it all came from this guy. And, oh, everyone else who's talking about this must have just got it from this guy, or they're just stealing that information and repeating it. And it didn't help that individual claimed that very often. But it's a real shame, because it's you don't even have to talk about that guy at all, and there's mountains and mountains and mountains of information and all of it there, and that's what we cover in the documentary.
Okay.
And we primarily focused on. So it's a hard story to believe. So we kind of build this foundation of these people have been talking about these programs for quite some time now, and not just random people, very credible people, right? And then we get into how people are brought into the programs out of the gifted and talented programs, or the TAG programs through elementary school, these special abilities programs. And this is kind of like a recruitment process, and they target children throughout their whole life, and then they're like brought into these programs, and there's a whole mind wipe, part of this, and technologies like time travel and stuff, which there is a real history there for all that stuff, and it's starting to come out. And if you don't believe in time travel, just go on the Epstein files on the Department of Justice website and type in time travel, because they've been discussing it for decades, and developing it for decades. But it really builds the story, and we wanted to focus on the whistleblowers coming out now that are have military credentials, that have been in the military. So the film focuses on all these people that were in the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, and they all have experiences directly being recruited or volunteering for these programs out of the military. So these aren't we're not interviewing like random people with random memories like myself. I don't have military background or anything.
There's nothing wrong with that. And that's,
no, there's
any of those people are very legit as well.
Nothing wrong with that, but we're trying to reach the skeptics here. And unfortunately,
as much as possible.
Ground it as much as possible. So unfortunately, people still out there, they'll listen to the guy in the white lab coat or the guy in the military uniform over the average Joe, So that was important to me to put the military behind this. The only person in the film that doesn't have a military background is Tony Rodriguez, but in his case, he has some of the most, I would say, smoking gun evidence, compelling evidence of what we're actually talking about here. So it's this ambitious project that really dovetails everything together in 2 hours, and that doesn't even do the subject justice. Honestly, it could have been 8 hours. And this one's not going to be free. This one took a lot more money, a lot more time, a lot more effort, and a lot more research. And it just took everything we had. And in fact, making this documentary was really, there was a lot of pushback for this one. The Cahokia Mountains one, we just did it. This one really came with some pushback and just some wild shit. Like, people didn't want this information out there. And it's available now on our Patreon for purchase until it hits the streaming platforms. which is on its way there, but that time frame is out of our hands. So, and yeah,
and we flew all over the country to get a lot of the people that are in the film. We had to fly to them to get them on film. So that, it was a lot of time, energy, and money put into this one, and we really wanted to make it as well done and as just as good as it could possibly be. So we put a lot into this one, and that's the reason this one is not just a free, because we wanted to do it as professionally as possible this time, and but also get it out, cast a wide net and get it out to the world in as big of a way as possible. So hopefully it'll be on like Prime streaming or Tubi or some of these other platforms that you don't necessarily have to buy or rent it. You should be able, if you already have Prime, hopefully it'll be available there, or Tubi is like free with ads, or some of these other free with ads platforms as well.
Right.
Yeah, well, you guys need to get paid for the work that you do, and it's not expected for you guys to give it for free. So I'm going to say you guys are worthy of charging.
Yeah,
and
that's why we did.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. You've done enough for free. I mean, your patron is $5. Come on.
Right.
So you guys have done enough. And it's time to pat yourself in the back and really say, now it's our time. We've given enough, we've bled enough, and it's time for us to reap the rewards and really allow the universe to provide, right, for all that we've done. And so,
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's why we released it on our Patreon for $15 now, because we have control over that, luckily, and didn't have to jump through any hoops for that. We already had our Patreon. We were like, well, let's just release it there. So you can currently buy it on our Patreon for $14.99. You don't even have to sign up to our Patreon to buy it. You can just buy it, but you have to go to our Patreon to buy it. But in the next, hopefully, month or two-ish, it should be available on a lot of other platforms, including Amazon.
And I just realized we never really said the name of it. A Lifetime of Silence Behind a Green Door is what it's called. If you scroll back up, you'll see it in post. Down a little bit, right there. Lifetime of Silence Behind a Green Door, and A Case for the Secret Space Program. And that title comes from an actual military patch that says that on the patch. And
I just realized I said in US dollars, so it's 25 Australian dollars apparently.
He's looking at it from Australia. Yeah,
it's $14.99 US dollars, 25 Australian.
Okay.
But that patch is a military patch for a secret program called literally Behind the Green Door, and we interviewed Mary Beaver, who's a former U.S. Army veteran, human intelligence analyst, who has literally seen the Green Door and been shown pictures from a meeting at the Pentagon, what exists beyond this Green Door underground. And it's everything UFO and extraterrestrial that's not supposed to exist. It's all there. And each one of these deep underground military bases has one of these doors that is like an entrance to this whole secret reality that we're just literally kept in the dark about. So the film is trying to open that green door, right? It's trying to open that door and show people what's really going on this planet and off this planet.
Wow. Okay. All right. And anything else, Aaron? Were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask me. Hey, I just want to prove to you guys that there is time travel, because I actually met Al Billick.
Oh, yeah, nice.
That's awesome.
He came to Brisbane back in '84. And,
wow.
He turned up at a meeting that was taking place on a Monday night with Dr. J.J. Hertag.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Love J.J. Hertag.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, I just met him recently, actually, here in Sedona.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So he, at the finish, he just stood up and said, does anybody know Project Rainbow? And of course, most did. And then as a result, he said, could we book this for tomorrow night? I'd like to give you a presentation. Oh, yeah, we all turned up the next night. And it was a bloody amazing story, wasn't it? About
Project Rainbow, that's Project, that's the USS Eldridge, the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was disclosing, way back in '84. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, he was out there for many years talking about time travel and all kinds of crazy stuff and Montauk and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, go ahead, Jeffrey. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
I was going to say, in fact, so there's getting into Philadelphia experiment or Project Rainbow, what its actual project name was. There is a guy I met here in Sedona. He lives not far from me. He's a quantum physicist. He's like 80-something years old, and he worked about 40 years in the shadow government. That seems to be what these guys do. They do 40-year stints. He was brought in from the Air Force at a young age because of his test scores and other abilities that he had. And he told me this was a very by accident chance meeting, right? I didn't know I was going to be meeting this guy. He told me that he was brought into the private sector, into this secret program, specifically brought in on Project Rainbow, the Philadelphia experiment, to help figure out why this, to perfect this technology. Because, you know, the original jump, the people were they got stuck into the walls. They were like, so that, you know, because you dematerialize basically. And then when you rematerialize, they basically ended up in these hardened surface because you're literally tearing apart the fabric of reality. They brought him to help figure out, okay, why was this happening? And he told me what they came to the conclusion was they had the technology right, but they lacked the psychic navigator, a remote viewer. We call it a psychic navigator. So if you don't know where you're going, you could easily end up inside of a solid object, which is what happened. So they haphazardly turned this technology on, according to him, and that's how these guys ended up getting stuck in the wall. And he said that the technology that he saw when he was brought into the program, and he won't do an interview, by the way. I really tried.
Yeah, he won't.
He said the technology he saw when he was brought into the program was the size of a room, like a bedroom or something, right? It was a big, device that took up a whole room. He said by the time he left the program, it was the size of a credit card or a cell phone. And he said what he called it was a dimensional shift technology. So it allows anybody that has the device now, he said an individual can use it. A person can use it, a craft can use it, a building can use it. And he said you can dimensionally shift anything. So what it does is it puts it out of phase. So it's still there, but it's existing now in another frequency, and you can no longer see it. And in fact, like this is how he said that a lot of our spacecraft travel. Basically, it's like a flip of a switch now, the technology by the time he left. They're not actually cloaking themselves. They're actually traveling out of phase. So they're traveling in another dimension whenever they take off, is what he explained to me. And there's a whole bunch of stuff he shared with me. It was absolutely fascinating. But he was the only guy I've ever talked to that personally. I mean, I know there's other people that have been involved, but he's the only one I've ever talked to that personally worked on the technology for the Philadelphia experiment or Project Rainbow.
Wow, that's mind blowing. That sucks. You couldn't bring him into your show. Wow.
We wanted so bad to bring him on the show.
Well, he told me that he was told that if he ever did an interview, that the person with the footage wouldn't make it across the street alive if they did. And I think they're just scaring him into not talking, but he doesn't want to put anyone at risk. So that's why that was his reason why he didn't want me to film it. But he would tell me things, but I just had to remember it.
Right. Exactly.
And you can't reveal his name either publicly, right?
I could, but I'm not going to, because his name is publicly known, but not under the guise of this whistleblower. He has a business. He has a business, and I don't want to jeopardize.
He probably doesn't want you to either, I'm assuming.
But I will say this: he makes water filters, and I should just say his name, but we already decided not to. He makes these water filters that he claims is like a technology that was reverse engineered from extraterrestrials, and it's basically it's not necessarily a filter. He calls it as like quantum technology or something. It's basically all sacred geometry and acoustics. And when the water passes through this, it's like perfectly harmonized on the other side. And it's like the best possible water you can possibly get. He said this is what they use like in the underground bases and stuff. So they have the cleanest water. We on the surface are drinking this polluted tap water, but this is the device that the military uses on their bases and stuff. He sells it on a website, and it's not cheap. You can get a whole home device or individual ones for your shower. And but
Wait,
it's
so this is a public thing. Like I could buy this.
Yeah, you could buy it. Yeah, it's yeah, I can send it to you.
Exactly. You're gonna have to let me know.
The first time hearing about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So he claims it's absolutely his whole house is wild. He's a quantum physicist. Like his house is like a lab, right? And he claims that it's reverse engineered technologies. It's not just your standard water filter. He even had screens on his house. He was trying to tell me about the dimensional aspect and like astral entities and all this stuff. And he has screens on his house that are state-of-the-art military grade screens that he said ghosts can't pass through. Like entities can't even pass. It's like his whole house is this dimensional barrier. Even what he painted his walls with and everything, because he understands like this spiritual war. And so he has his whole house fortified so nothing can get in. And he claimed to me that he has a UFO somewhere on like not UFO, a flying saucer that was gifted to him from one of the ET groups that we work with, the military works with. It was gifted to him, and it's somewhere on his property here, not far. In the event that he would ever need it, there's allegedly a craft here parked somewhere nearby. So
somewhere just outside of Sedona.
Yeah.
So
and just wild stuff, and I could go on and on about this guy, what he shared with me, but
Wow. Well, since I have you guys here, I wanted to ask you real quick because you know the whole story with Corey Good. You know that he had come out and said, I made everything up. It's all a lie because he was in Gaia.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of information, and I think it was called Cosmic Disclosure. Was it?
Yeah. Cosmic Disclosure. Still a show. Emery Smith now hosts it on Gaia.
Okay. So after, I don't know who I was talking to, and they said, he said that because his family was threatened. And
I heard that as well.
Yeah.
It's very likely.
So what do you guys think about that? Because that is a possibility.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So so what actually happened is his deposition got leaked. And one of his many lawsuits that mostly were started by him, I believe.
But that's the thing, were they? Because that's the thing. When you're getting framed, it's going to look like it's all your fault. But at the end of the day, it's all being
according to him, they were.
Yeah, according to him, he started them.
I'm suing this.
Yeah, he was very proud of telling people. He was Sue happy, and that's from his own mouth. So.
But I'm not sure. Was this the Gaia? I think it was the Gaia lawsuit. I'm not sure on that though. But the deposition got leaked by some other people that used to work closely with him, and so against his will. And in the deposition, I do think at least he was saying that just to win the lawsuit, because he realized, well, I can't say, if I don't say I made it up, they're just going to throw this out, because you can't own information that's publicly just an experience that anyone can have, right? So he kind of realized, okay, I have to say I didn't really go to space, I made it up, and it's my IP, and therefore hopefully I have a chance of winning this one. But it's also very possible, like you said, and I've heard other people say that as at least a theory, that they're like, oh, I think he was threatened. I'm like, yeah, that's highly possible as well. Or it's possible that in the programs that he was in, I do think he was in the programs, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Me
absolutely.
Too.
Well, I will.
His behavior going down after he got popular started becoming not great, in my opinion.
Right.
But I do think he was a legit experiencer, 100%. I think it's possible in the programs that whatever they did to him, they could have programmed him or messed with him or threatened him there, or who knows what could have happened, right? To where it led him to, it's kind of like the perfect setup, right? You get this guy out there, becomes the big guy, almost everyone's introduction to the topic, and then you tear him down, and then you discredit the whole topic with him, like throw the baby out the bathwater. And that's exactly what happened, unfortunately. And that's what we're trying to kind of undo, that damage, to be like, guys, look, this is real. This is a very real thing, very real stuff going on here. It's not all coming from this one guy, whether you like him or not, whatever you want to think about him. it's still important to realize it's not all coming from this guy, right? He was just one experiencer.
Well, I was wondering if it could be true that he did get framed. So, Tyler, what did you think?
I don't think he got framed. I think he was used. I think there's no reason to kill a whistleblower anymore. You just basically if you're in the programs, they still got you, especially if you haven't done the healing work to break out of it.
It backfires to kill him.
Mind control is the name of the game. So in my opinion, he had a handler, which he was openly talking about these people that were giving him information and these briefings and updates. And then at one point he kind of stopped getting updates, and he even was vocal about it publicly. He kind of had like withdrawals from it. He was really like feeling like he was left out, and he was like really wanted in on these briefings. And that's when they get him. So then they just, okay, well, this guy is desperate. He just wants to be in the spotlight. We're going to just tell him whatever the hell we want. And then they start feeding him all this shit. And then listen, you're the only one. No, everyone else is fake. Mm-hmm. Trust us. Everyone else is fake. You're the only one, Corey. And sue those people. Yeah. So what
they're all stealing your information. They're stealing your
So what happens is they literally manipulate an individual to self-sabotage their own testimony, and they're giving him bad advice on purpose. And I think it was systematic. There's no reason to kill a whistleblower. You just mind control them to self-sabotage. And we see that over and over again with a lot of these people. And then now they're doing all of this horrible stuff that they think is a good idea for some reason. And it just makes the whole subject look terrible. Going to the court case, I talked to a lawyer at the time who reached out to us when the whole deposition got leaked. And she goes, I just want you to understand, if you're claiming something as your intellectual property, if you have to, it can only be your intellectual property if you made it up. She said the only way he wins the lawsuit for it to be intellectual property is to say under oath that he made it all up.
And he knew that.
And he knew that. So he was lying under oath, saying, I made it all up. I own it because he was money hungry. He thought he could win like millions of dollars from this lawsuit, and it backfired. So but the only way you can win an IP lawsuit is to say you made it up. So, but then he immediately went on, and this is where he shot himself in the foot. I follow him on X, and he immediately went on X afterwards and saying, he little backpedaled the whole thing and said, I didn't make it up. Basically, I had to say that, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all true. I stand by everything.
So he even said that on X himself.
Yeah. No, yeah, he said it.
I didn't even know that. I just assumed he.
Oh, yeah. No, he came out. He came out right away defending his testimony. It's like, no, it's all real. Like, wow. And that's what happens when people are under control. They're not really acting of their own volition. And we're talking about sociopaths, and I don't mean in a rude way. I just mean like whenever somebody's brain has been fractured and compartmentalized, one part of that, one version of them doesn't remember what the other one said or did. And so you have these conflicting personalities within one person, and this is literally how they control people and self-sabotage an entire subject. They knew the secret space program information was coming out no matter what. They have looking glass technology, timeline technology. So what they do is get ahead of the game, and they set someone up like Corey to just damage the whole thing and muddy the waters. And then now it's all out there from everyone else. But the biggest guy came out and openly said that he lied and made it all up because he was greedy and hungry for some cash and ego. And that's what we're looking at. And I don't care what people say or if this even gets us, flack. That's in my opinion what happened.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm glad I asked you. So the last thing I wanted to ask you guys about before we go is your amazing conference that's coming up in April. Tell everybody about what's going on with that and if you have any openings.
There it is, right there. Journey to the Big Island. So this is exactly what it looks like. It's a vacation conference. It's not just a vacation. There's going to be amazing speakers. We're going to be doing some activations and some work. But what I wanted to do personally was take a break from all of the darker information and the secret space programs and all that stuff, and really lighten things up. And it is a whole lighthearted approach, boots on the ground, get in the water, swim with some dolphins, go to these ancient sacred sites, volcanoes, beach, sun, Hawaii, all of it. A very activating, lighthearted, amazing conference. And that's what this is. And there's so much to say about it. But I've been talking for a while, so I don't know, Aaron, if you want to hop in and say anything about it. But there are spots, to answer your question, there are spots available still, and there are virtual passes if you can't make it in person.
Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
5 days on the Big Island, all amazing, phenomenal speakers. I mean, we're, like you said, we're gonna swim with dolphins, go to sacred sites. It's going to be a magical, amazing time. So if you can make it, you don't want to miss.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a small group, which I think makes it very special, and really opens the opportunity for magic to happen and synchronicities to happen, and who knows, how many ships we can get to show up, like we did in Sedona, Aaron. I mean, in Mount Shasta, when you met Amanda, and we were, together in that group, and we were able to see, I don't remember how many craft we saw.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it really is an amazing time when you get together with people that are connected to the stars. And so definitely check it out. Guys, thank you so much for coming here and talking to us, and just being yourselves and helping humanity and everything else.
Yeah. Thank you for having us on and appreciating our work and what we do. That really means a lot. Thank
you so much.
You're welcome.
And and just again, for people asking in the comments, journeytotruth.online, you can find everything we do there. So that everything's under one umbrella. That's the best way to find anything, or email us.
.online, not .com.
Yeah, .online, and also on YouTube. It's what's it on YouTube?
Just Journey to Truth podcast.
Okay.
If you just search Journey to Truth or Journey to Truth podcast, you'll come up first thing.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was a blast.
So fun.
Get them back again, Elise. Get them back.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
Totally.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.